All right, good evening, everyone. It is 5:30, and I will call this policy meeting to order. Ms. Shope, may I please have a roll call?
Yes. Spencer Anderson.
Present.
Greg Schneider is not available to be with us. And Amy Levy.
Here. All right, thank you so much. Is there a motion to approve this evening's agenda?
So moved.
I will provide a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, that motion passes unanimously. Is there a motion to approve the policy minutes from the October 5th meeting?
So moved.
I will provide a second. Is there any discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, that motion passes unanimously as well. We will go ahead and get started. We'll begin with policy 377. Thank you, Ms. Shope, and I'm sure the team of people who helped to put together that SDB clubs and activities list for 2022 and 2023. Much appreciated. That was really helpful. Per our discussion at our last policy meeting, the committee believes that SDB student organizations that have an advisor, whether paid or volunteer, that's considered an activity. So for example, even if the group has club in the name, like art club, just want to be clear that that is considered an activity. So when looking at policy 377, it's just a little over a page. Board Member Anderson, do you have any edits or questions to that policy?
I do not.
All right, I have a couple tweaks in the fourth line, which starts with including. It may be more just streamlined if we say including district athletics and activities, because those are the two categories included under the policy. So it currently reads, the district will embrace a culture where all students are engaged in opportunities outside of the classroom that promote personal growth, including district-sponsored organizations such as athletics, clubs, and activities. I don't want it to be confusing. Well, what's a club? What's an activity? And then when it says district-sponsored, I want us to be consistent with our language. For example, last night when we approved district activities for Fund 60. Board Member Anderson, do you have any objections to us changing district-sponsored to district-approved?
I don't see why not.
Okay. Attorney Baran, is there any legal differentiation that I'm missing?
I don't believe so, no.
Okay. So Ms. Shope, if we could have that adjusted to district-approved athletics and activities. And then I would like to include, just for clarification, a new sentence right after that that simply says, an activity is any collection of students with an advisor, parentheses, paid or volunteer. Board Member Anderson, do you have any objections to providing that clarification?
No.
Okay. Ms. Shope, did you get that? No problem. So right after that sentence that we're going to adjust that says district-approved athletics and activities, the new sentence will read, an activity is any collection of students with an advisor, parentheses, paid or volunteer. And then I'm completely fine with the other edits that Attorney Baran submitted for this policy. All right, is there a motion to approve policy 377 to move on to the full board? Well, actually, before I do that, you know what, we can handle that at the regular meeting, so that's fine. Is there a motion to approve policy 377 to move on to the full board for first reading?
So moved.
Second, any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right, that motion passes unanimously. Perfect. That brings us to policy 377, Rule 1. Board Member Anderson, any edits or questions with that policy?
I do not.
I don't have any as well. Is there a motion to approve policy 377, rule 1?
So moved.
Second, is there any?
Point of order.
Yes.
So there are no revisions to that one, so I don't know that we even need to move that one forward. I don't show any revisions to it anyway. Do you? I mean, I'm not seeing
Well,
any.
here's the only thing. Have we made any revisions since it was suspended and then brought back and all of that?
No.
Not at all?
Since June 7th, 2022.
Okay.
There have been no revisions made to it.
Perfect. Help me, I think I stated a second, so we'll just go ahead and vote that down. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, please say nay. Nay.
Nay.
All right, perfect. That motion fails. We will move forward. Thank you, Ms. Shope, for that catch. Okay, that brings us to policy 377, rule 2. Let's take this one one page at a time until we work through the administration's revisions, and then I think we can take the last chunk all at once. So we'll start with page 1. Board Member Anderson, do you have any edits or questions?
I do not.
All right. So my only issue with page 1 is 2A, Roman numeral 3. I don't agree with that. I believe that we should have a 2.0 or higher GPA. So Board Member Anderson, feel free to not respond, but if you're interested in responding, so when we passed this policy with the full board in June, it was a unanimous vote of yes. Has your position on that changed?
I mean, I could go either way, but the way that I was looking at it is that if this is a recommendation from our admin, in order to allow our students to be less restricted, but also still holding them to a standard, that I was going to accept that.
So you don't believe that students need to?
No,
However.
I do believe that they should be held to a standard, but this is what admin was recommending that we would go to.
So here's the issue. I don't support the change. It sounds like you do support the change, so we have a couple options. Option 1 is we're at a stalemate because there's just the two of us here. Or option 2, we can vote to pass it on to the full board, knowing that we may or may not support the language that's in there, and then pull it once it gets to the full board, and then we can make the decision, the final decision there. Do you have a preference?
I am more than happy to just send this to the full board, and then because this is a pretty important subject to a lot of people, that I think that we could pull it and it'd be just fine for us to have that discussion there too.
Okay, so are you comfortable with it staying as it originally was and not making the edit, knowing that we'll pull it when it gets to the full board to have a discussion, because this is something that has come back to us to come back. This is a different type of policy.
Correct. I'm fine with that.
Okay. So Ms. Shope, when this goes to the full board, we actually won't have, we will leave the language as it was in June. And then can you just, okay, so like when we had the to-do list, and it's going to be very brief, but can you give us a little checklist? Because I am going to ask the board president to not put this on consent agenda, but for action, and we'll go through our checks of things that we had discussions about in committee that there wasn't unanimous consent about, so that we don't miss anything. So please keep it as it appeared in June, with have a GPA of 2.0 or higher from the previous term. And I actually would like to edit that slightly to say current GPA, because there was some discussion of, did you have to have a cumulative GPA of 2.0, or was it just your current GPA? And for our students that are maybe improving, they may not have a cumulative 2.0, but they may have a current one. And so I definitely want to give them the benefit of that recent improvement. But please put that as an item on our list that we will discuss as a full board. All right.
Also,
Yeah.
question about that. When
Please.
it does come to the full board, since you're going to make the request to have it off of the consent agenda to begin with, is it appropriate for us to ask the admin that was supposed to be presenting this to be there to discuss and give their rationale to it, or?
Admin is always welcome to come to meetings, always.
Okay, well,
Yep.
I just want to make sure, like, if we had to, like, kind of give them, like, say, hey, like, this is what happened in policy, are you going to, like, just to give you a fair warning.
I'll put it this way. Since no one from the administration is here, hopefully they will take the time to watch this recording and govern themselves accordingly when it comes to the full board.
Okay.
All right. Moving on to page 2, I'll yield the floor. Board Member Anderson, do you have any edits or questions just on page 2 of this policy? All right. I had a couple items. On C, I'm completely fine with the admin's edits, but I would like to clarify. So the portion that's has the line through it, I'm fine with omitting, I'm fine with accepting their recommendations in green, but I do want to clarify. So for example, when it says, so C would be replaced and say, students with 1F will be ineligible to compete in any contest for the first scheduled contest week. The student will regain eligibility after the first week of competition, and academic eligibility is reestablished. Because the language, I read that as kind of vague. So let's say I have an F. After that first week of competition, if I still have an F, the way I'm reading this is as long as I sit out that first week, I'm good to go. But it's no, you need to remedy the F and sit out that first week, and then you're good to go because you have to be academically eligible. Does that make sense, Board Member Anderson?
It does.
Are you okay with that clarification?
Yes.
Okay, and then the final sentence in the green portion under C, same thing. The student will regain eligibility after the first third of the season is over and academic eligibility is reestablished. So this speaks to students that have more than 1F. All right, Ms. Shope, do I need to repeat anything for C? Okay, and then for E, the whole fall exception rule is lined through, which, so here's my rationale for that. I don't support that being removed, and here's why. So there are behavioral expectations year-round, and I think there should be academic expectations as well. And my other concern is, since at least one of our long-serving coaches believed that the fall exception rule was new when we passed this policy set in June, that leads me to believe that the fall exception rule was not being consistently implemented. And so I would hate to remove a significant portion of policy when we don't have evidence that it's been implemented and there's a problem. Does that make sense? So that's my issue. So I am actually fine with keeping the fall exception rule. Board Member Anderson, do you have any concerns on that?
I mean, I do believe that, like, no, I'll be fine with that.
Okay. And Ms. Shope, could you put that as the second item on our list? I just want to make sure that in the spirit of full transparency, the full board is aware, to your point, Board Member Anderson, that the administration did want to have that removed. But I just feel that there's no need to remove it, but we'll let the full board make that final decision. So when it goes to the full board for first reading, if you could keep it in, and then that's item 2 on our list. All right. That brings us to page 3. Any issues or well, actually, hold on, let me scan forward. The only other edits are kind of in pronouns, and then a shifting. Some of the sections, they're stricken through, but not because they're being removed, but just because they are being shifted. So they're up at the front of the policy. So those were the only things where admin really had a lot of context around. Is there anything else in this policy that you had questions about or wanted to submit edits, Board Member Anderson?
I do not.
Okay. So I'm fine with it, with the edits that we just discussed. So is there a motion to approve Policy 377, Rule 2 to the full board for first reading with the edits discussed?
So moved.
All right, and I will provide a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right, that motion passes unanimously. That brings us to our final policy for the evening. Policy 377, Rule 3. Board Member Anderson, anything on that first page that you have questions or want to make edits?
I do not.
All right, I just have a few items. On that first page, the third point under 1A, No. I'm suggesting that we have a fourth point. So under have emergency information on file, students also have to have a current physical. So I think we should include that so that doesn't catch anyone by surprise. So I would like for item 4 under 1A to read, students participating in athletics must have a current physical on file. Are you okay with that, Board Member Anderson?
Well, I believe that is fair.
Okay. Ms. Shope, do you need me to repeat that one? Okay. And then under 2, academics and attendance, while it's not a requirement, I'm really grateful that our athletic and activities director stated in a previous meeting that he was fine with intermediate students attending the athletic and activity code meeting at the high school because the policies mirror each other so much. So I just want to make sure that that's clear in policies so families that are interested and able know that they have that opportunity. So in 2A, right after that first sentence, grades will be checked at least twice each month of the season. Hold on. Oh, I got ahead of myself. Let me back up. So my edit for that is I think we should have, if we are going to have the 2.0 GPA at the high school level, I think it's appropriate to also have it at the intermediate level. And so again, so those policies mirror each other. So what I would propose that we put, and this will be item 3 on the list, if Board Member Anderson is in agreement, is that after that first sentence, we have students must have a current GPA of 2.0. Do you have any objections to that, Board Member Anderson?
I do not.
Okay. And then Ms. Shope, again, if we could put that as item 3 to make sure that the full board is aware of it and we can find out if there is agreement or if edits need to be made. All right. The point that I thought I was going to make is on the next page. So I'll go there. Page 3, any edits or questions, Board Member Anderson?
I do not have any.
Okay, so under 6, so that's the Code of Conduct and Discipline. So I am proposing that this will be a new 6A, and then A will turn into B, and so on and so forth. Students are encouraged to attend the high school athletic and activities code meeting. So again, not a requirement, but I think 1, it's good to get them in the habit, and 2, since the policies mirror each other so much, I think a lot can be learned and gained from attending those if families are able. So again, I am proposing a new 6A that would read, students are encouraged to attend the high school athletic and activity code meeting. Ms. Shope, do you need me to repeat any of that? All right. And again, thank you to Mr. Dupuis for extending that invitation to our intermediate students who participate in athletics and activities. I think that was really important to do. So there's a couple other pages left, which no one has requested edits on, but I don't want to make any assumptions. Board Member Anderson, do you have any questions or edits for the remaining pages of this policy?
No.
All right, I don't either. Is there a motion to approve policy 377, rule 3, as with the edits we just discussed?
So moved.
All right, I will provide a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. All right, that motion passes unanimously, which brings us to our next meeting date, which will be Wednesday, December 7th at 5:30. Thank you to the members of the administration and to you also, Attorney Brand. I know that you are working on policies that will make it to our agenda for that meeting, and we appreciate that. If there is nothing else, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, I will provide a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, that motion passes unanimously, and we are done for the evening. Thank you so much, everyone.